Right then, some more BMW content. This is an X5. This has got the 50D engine in, which in Europe fitted this to the 5 Series saloon and estate, maybe just estate, I'm not sure. Anyway, we never got that. Apparently it's something to do with right-hand drive and where the turbos are and the steering rack and all that sort of stuff, but there's more room in these jacked up things, so we got these. So this is sort of an engine that I don't think needed to exist. I don't think anybody thought that 2 turbos weren't enough, but BMW thought it needed 3, and then the newer ones have got 4. But anyway, looking here, you can't even see one of them. There's something here. This is a turbo setup, but I can't figure out which is one and which is the other from here. So that's not good, especially when they start going wrong, because the twin turbo stuffs are enough for a pain in the arse when they start going wrong. But anyway, this is coming to us. It's done 50-odd thousand mile. Don't look like it's ever had an air filter, bits of seal missing and stuff like that. It came into us for a tune and the DPF gutting, because I believe the customer's having a few problems with regenerations and what have you and just wants rid of it anyway. But that comes with other problems. Obviously, these are really bad for swirl flaps, EGR problems, AdBlue problems. So if you're going to do it, you just do everything or you do none of it. We sort of have a lot of people asking us, oh, can I delete my swirl flaps? They're faulty. Can I delete my AdBlue? That's faulty. Can I delete my EGR? You've got to do everything at once to do it properly. You can sometimes get away with just swirl flaps, but generally, you're either doing one, you're doing none, or you're doing them all, because you're going to start having problems later down the line, which we'll probably have a picture we can insert from a different car of what happens when your DPF starts breaking down. But anyway, this is the stuff that we've took off. So the main bit here, the DPF, which this first portion here, that's actually a cat. That's not the DPF. You can tell because they've got a temperature sensor before and after the cat. So that's obviously measuring before the DPF. And then this pressure sensor is going in here. This goes up to the sensor. And then the water pipe coming off here. But we had to cut that just to get it in, which is one of the reasons why we've done what we'll have a look at in a minute. But to get this out, was an absolute pig. I think 4 hours work, maybe a little bit more, just to get it out, never mind get it back in. And that involved 3 people with pry bars, prying away and damaging all this stuff, because originally this was going to get gutted and then put back in, but it had added that much time and effort in. We had to drop all the subframe, the anti-roll bars, steering rack, everything just to get it in, and that's just not a job we wanted to do for no real gain. So we've put a pipe on it. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. So the other thing that comes just after this weird turbine thing, which is something to do with the AdBlue, because the AdBlue squirts on this, which normally AdBlue squirts straight onto a cat, but that's all going away. So we took that out, 'cause that can't be making the engine breathe better. But anyway, that's that. EGR valve, that's all gone now. So we took that out in the cooler as well. That's the pipe that then sends it back round to the inlet, which that's got another sensor in. So as you can see, there's a few sensors and things that can go wrong. And then all the swirl flaps that we've took out in there, which as usual, you don't want your engine to swallow them. They're absolutely caked in crap, which I don't even want to touch them. But these are not the worst we've seen by far. So we'll get it up in the air and we'll have a look underneath. So as you can see, probably sneak your head up here, Danik, sneak camera in there. We can just see it back of the turbine housing with a lambda sensor sticking out of it. That's the nearest thing you can see to a turbo, but beyond that, still struggling. So this is all where the AdBlue goes in. We're not doing anything with that other than taking that silly thing out that's gone, which I think that went into that bit there. All this is to still bolt back up, but you can see the DPF pipe that we've made, that's there, ready to go. We've not put every one of the sensors in because they're usually stuck, and if you're doing a DPF delete, you need to delete some sensors anyway, so the idea is just don't put any more than you need to, because that will make it harder to get in it anyway. So this is not too far away from being finished, So we'll let Owen finish this off, and then I think the next time you're going to see us will be on the dyno. We have tuned a couple of these before, but always standard hardware, so let's see, and quite a few remotely as well, but let's see where it does on our dyno, and we'll go from there. So, 550D, finally got it on the dyno and done what we need to do, but that was yesterday while I weren't here, and as you can hear, there's a car on the dyno, so can't do the video how we normally do it. But we've got the graphs, so we can have a look at them. So we'll probably put a picture of it up rather than me looking, but basically, standard 372, so a little bit down on what it should be, and then tuned 473, so 100 horsepower on a car that's already pushed is good. And then the torque, we've gone from sort of 560 pounds of torque up to over 700, which it looks a bit lazy and a bit messy, but this is the sort of changeover of the turbos. You're never really in this region unless you're at full throttle anyway, in manual. So I'm going to drive it and see if you can feel it on the road. I've been told that you can't really feel it, so we shall see. Would have liked to have got a little bit more torque really low down as well, but again, you're not in that region and it did mess the control up a little bit. So what is the limiting factor now? Matisse reckons he could just keep turning everything up and get more, but the problem we've got is with this, you're not really monitoring what you want to be monitoring if you're looking at things properly. Basically, the EGT sensor in these is post-turbo. That's probably so they don't fail, because all the pre-turbo ones generally fail on most other manufacturers' cars. This one's the coolest one, or when the DPS in this one, the one after the DPF's cooler, but the sort of post-turbo one's going to be the coolest one on this car now. Now it's not got the DPF in place. The EGTs as standard get to around 500. The ones that we've tuned previously with the DPFs in place, they're around knocking on 700-ish, getting up to there, which when you've got three turbos taking the exhaust energy away, not really a fan of pushing it that far, but when you've got the DPF, what can you do? Now we've took the DPF out, that's knocking on, not even getting to 600 now, but we do think that that's obviously because the DPF's not retaining it, it's just letting it flow through. It doesn't mean that the turbos are not seeing higher temperatures than they would have done if that were lower, if you get what I mean. So anyway, got to be really careful. If we wanted to do one of these and push it to the absolute limit, I'd want cylinder pressure monitoring on there, I'd want EGTs tapping in pre-turbo. Where that'd go, God knows, because you can't even see any of the exhaust manifold. So that's not the limit. The EGTs are not really the limiting factor. We've pushed the rail pressure a little bit hard because the later ones, very similar setup, and they're running harder, so we've pushed that quite hard. But the boost pressure, we're not really running anything beyond what there are maps in the ECU that are already doing. The standard boost is 2.8 bar. There's maps in there that are 3.3 bar, so we've just scaled everything to sort of run that when it needs to run that. So I think we could push it a bit harder. I think we could probably get 500 horsepower out of this, but whether it'd last a long time, whether it'd be safe, not too sure. And 100 horsepower gains and 150 pounds of torque, you don't need any more than that from a tune and a DPF delete, in my opinion. So should be good. We'll get on it and see how it drives, what it feels like. Might be able to get a launch in if launch control will work. I've not even driven it, so I don't know, and I'm only doing one take because the customer's on his way for it as well. I would have normally done this video from inside car, but it's a bit filthy. These 50Ds, everyone we seem to get Seems looks like somebody's been living in it. So they're definitely getting used anyway. They're not a Chelsea tractor that's just getting parked up outside school to look pretty. So we'll go for a drive, see how we get on. So I'm out in the X5. Not sure what it's going to drive like. I don't think I personally drove one of these 50Ds, so this will be very subjective. It feels like a normal engine when you're cruising, you should expect. And I've literally, for a bit of context, I've just been out in a 335D xDrive that's tuned and DPF deleted and all that sort of stuff, which I know it's not the same. It'd be nice to go out in an X5 with that engine, but it's the best you're going to get. I know what that feels like and drives like. That's alright. So I've got it in sport at the minute, not in the gearbox, I don't know if that makes any difference. Seems alright. Nice and quiet. Still disgusting in here, but lived in, is what we'll say. That's how they describe stuff like this. It's an house. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the X5. I don't think I'd have one. That's why I've not got a 550D engine in the fleet. So we didn't get the 5 Series. Need to put the seat forward up and get full from. No smoke, which is good. And I didn't hang about. Tell you what I do want to do while we've got a chance. Put it in manual, get the revs real low, 6th gear, full throttle at 1500. Yeah, the real magic happens at 3000 RPM. It seems to be picking up really strong at 3000 RPM. Obviously, if you remember the dyno graphic, we're after 3000 before it got peak, which not a problem because it already had loads. It just peaked at after 3000, which we've just been discussing with tuners about it. If you had a single turbo, or maybe even a twin turbo, but definitely a single turbo that can do 470 horsepower, you probably wouldn't see anything until 3,500 RPM. So the fact that you've still probably got 600 foot-pound of torque, 550, 2,000 RPM, it's not bad going. I'm beginning to lower RPM again. So at 2,000 this time, 15. Real strong. This is one of them cars that you're definitely going to need an empty road in front of you if you want to maximise it. That's not the purpose of today's test drive. Leave that to the customers to drive them like idiots. Yeah, this is nice. I'm trying to put back into sport. Slow down a bit. I'm not sure how it works in Europe because a lot of Europeans will be watching this, but 50 to 70 mile per hour, which seems to be sort of an industry standard for overtaking potential, and 2.2 seconds, 50 to 70, which doesn't sound like a lot of time. Definitely quick enough to get you out of trouble, or in trouble, with relative ease. close. I've no idea what these weigh. It'll be a lot. Well over 2 ton. Not slow. Let's see if I can get it to launch then. Sport Plus. I think that's what you need on this. So that was 4.39, not 60. Pretty good. Not slow for a big old tank. Can't remember what these are standard. It's not 4.3. This does cover ground very quickly when you're not wanting to be mental. Yeah, really happy with this. If you want to know what it's got fitted to it, the pipes and everything are all listed. Got DPF, EGR, Delete, all that stuff. That's all listed on our website.